It was an ordinary Tuesday evening, the kind where everything seems calm, quiet, and almost boring. I had just finished a long day of work, settling onto the couch with my laptop, trying to catch up on emails while sipping lukewarm coffee. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I picked it up and saw a message from Natalie, my wife's stunning and independent single friend. I hadn't heard from her in months, and my heart skipped a beat as I read the first few words. "I don't want to upset you, but your wife has lovers." My hand trembled slightly as I held my phone, staring at the text in disbelief. Could this really be happening? Was this a joke, a warning, or the devastating truth I never wanted to face? My mind immediately went through every interaction, every subtle behavior for my wife over the past months. Trying to piece together what I had missed, I typed back carefully, trying to mask the storm of emotions that suddenly gripped me. "Why are you telling me this? What do you want?" The cursor blinked on the screen as if mocking my hesitation. Seconds stretched into minutes, each tick of the clock making my heart race faster. And then her reply came, "You, only you." Those 3 words struck me like a lightning bolt. The friend I had always considered harmless and loyal was now confessing intentions that were impossible to ignore. Betrayal, desire, and temptation collided inside me in an instant. I leaned back in my chair, running a hand over my face, trying to process what I had just read. Could it be true? And if it was, what did it mean for my marriage and my own sense of self? The next day, I decided I had to meet her. I couldn't ignore the gravity of what she had told me, and I needed answers in person. Natalie had chosen a small, intimate cafe tucked away from the bustling streets of the city, a place that seemed ordinary, but felt charged with tension the moment I walked in. She was already there, seated calmly, sipping coffee with a kind of composure that made everyone in the room take notice. Her eyes met mine and held mine with a directness that made me simultaneously nervous and intrigued. Then she spoke, her voice calm, measured, and impossible to ignore. "You deserve to know the truth. She's been seeing others, and I couldn't stay silent anymore." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Yet, the calmness in her tone sent shivers down my spine. I asked questions cautiously, careful not to let my emotions take over. "How long?" I whispered, my voice barely above the background noise. "Who?" I asked again, my hands gripping the edge of the table. Natalie answered each question with precision, her words deliberate and measured. Every revelation was like a punch to the gut. Each detail twisting a knife I hadn't even known was there. And yet, despite the sting, I remained composed, letting the truth sink in before reacting. She watched me closely, her eyes flicking between mine and my hands, studying every micro-expression, as if trying to gauge my willingness to act, my vulnerability, and my capacity for judgment. Then came the moment that changed everything. Natalie leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper, almost dangerous in its intensity. "I didn't tell you this to hurt you. I told you because I want you. Only you." My chest tightened and my mind raced in 1,000 directions at once. Her words were deliberate, intoxicating, and impossible to ignore. The betrayal of my wife suddenly seemed almost secondary to the undeniable allure, honesty, and danger that Natalie represented. In that moment, the world narrowed to the table in front of us. The quiet hum of the cafe fading and the intensity of her gaze pulling me towards something entirely unexpected. We spent hours talking that evening, our conversation a careful dance of words, glances, and unspoken tension. Natalie didn't pressure me, didn't force my hand, but allowed every subtle gesture, every pause, every flicker of expression to speak volumes. I felt the pull between temptation and morality, desire and caution, as if every choice was amplified by the stakes. The more she spoke, the more I realized that this wasn't just about attraction. This was a test of honesty, of trust, and of my own ability to see through the illusions my wife had created. Her calm, deliberate honesty was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the chaos I had been living in for months. I left the cafe that night with my thoughts in a whirlwind. My wife's betrayal had been shocking, but Natalie's bold, candid confession had shifted something deep inside me. Anger, frustration, excitement, and curiosity collided, creating a storm of conflicting emotions I hadn't felt in years. Each step I took home felt heavy with meaning, as if I were walking on a tightrope strung between temptation and morality. Could I forgive my wife? Could I pursue something new and thrilling with Natalie, or would I choose the path of caution and independence? Every option carried consequences too significant to ignore. Over the following days, Natalie's presence became a constant undercurrent in my life. She didn't bombard me with texts or calls, but each subtle interaction, each casual message reminded me of the secret she had entrusted to me and the unexpected opportunity she had offered. Meanwhile, my wife continued her routine, oblivious to the fact that her carefully constructed facade had been shattered. She didn't know that the truth was now out, that her betrayal was no longer hidden, and that the person she had taken for granted had begun to reclaim his power. The tension between past loyalties and present temptation grew unbearable. I spent sleepless nights weighing every decision, analyzing every possible consequence. Natalie's honesty had opened a door I hadn't anticipated, but pursuing it could complicate everything. Yet, her allure, intelligence, and steady confidence were impossible to ignore. I realized that life had forced me into a situation where every choice was high stakes, where my future, my happiness, and my dignity were balanced on a knife edge. Every word, every glance, every decision could tip the scales, and I could feel the tension pressing down on me relentlessly. In the end, it wasn't a dramatic confrontation, shouting, or confrontation that changed everything. It was clarity, truth, and choice. I could no longer ignore my wife's betrayal, nor could I dismiss Natalie's bold confession. I had to decide who I was, what I wanted, and how I would reclaim my life. That one text had triggered a chain of events that revealed secrets, desires, and possibilities I had never imagined. And now, for the first time in years, I felt a sense of control, empowerment, and anticipation for the path I would choose. Free from deception, manipulation, and lies.